Find out about the exciting world of cryptocurrencies as I talk to the host of Crypto Voices, Matthew Mezinskis. Cryptocurrencies is taking the world by storm today. We're seeing that coins like Bitcoin and other digital currencies provide enormous amount of opportunities for entrepreneurs and for people who are ready to kind of think out of the box and get moving with it. And today, you've got a special treat in store for you because I have a good buddy of mine joining me right now from his offices over in the Baltics. He gets around in Latvia and Lithuania and around. His name is Matthew Mezinskis, and he's joining us now. Matthew, good to have you with us today.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Well, I am honored to have you on board because you really know finance, securities. You've done this as an analyst, and you're able to look at what's going on with cryptocurrencies. Matter of fact, you have a podcast that I love called Crypto Voices. And those of you listening to this, take this down, write it down. You're going to thank me later. Crypto Voices is what you want to subscribe to, and he goes into real detail on what's happening in the world with crypto, what's happening there, and now he's entered a new feature. So I'm going to let him tell us about that. Matthew, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with Crypto Voices and your work over there in the Baltics.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Terry. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. So I have a background in finance and accounting. I am originally from the U.S., but as you've mentioned, maybe confusing to some of your listeners.
In Cincinnati, right? And
that's right. Originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. Went to the University of Cincinnati.
Yeah, 513 area code, I believe.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that you know that. But you said you were traveling through there doing some work.
Oh, I travel around a lot, so I kind of remember area codes, different places. You know, it's not the 614, which up there in Columbus, Ohio.
That's right. That's right. But but after university, I finished university in 2006, and I came straight over to Latvia to live full-time. My father is originally from Latvia. His family is from Latvia, so I'm half Latvian American. And I've been there ever since. So that's it's going on 11 years now. It's wild how time flies. But around 2011, I really started to get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Get into that shortly, but just quickly about myself. I have always had a background in, like I said, finance, accounting, analysis. And for the past couple years, I've been able to do that on a consulting basis. I've worked with investors in the real estate business, hospitality business, food and beverage business, and the online direct lending business as well, which some people call peer-to-peer lending, depending on how you define it. A little bit different than peer-to-peer currencies, but I have some experience in that as well. So play around a lot in Google spreadsheets and Microsoft Excel, but I do a decent job, I think, and have a lot of experience in consulting and finance.
Yeah, and you're doing a lot now with cryptocurrency. Tell us a little bit about Crypto Voices and what you see from that.
Yeah, so Crypto Voices, I started up and working on it for about almost 2 years now, actually, but I just launched it in January of this year. So it took a long time to set up. I wanted to get a lot of data up there, a lot of information up there. Started it basically for two reasons. The first was I wanted to do something creative. I have dabbled in some voice work. I've read, as an example, History of Money and Banking, which was a work by Murray Rothbard, a well-renowned Austrian economist. Done some other stuff for some friends and whatnot in voice work, but I wanted to sort of expand upon that and do something creative. So I figured a podcast would be good, but before I got there, I wanted to sort of lay a framework and have some concrete material for people that were interested in things that, like I was interested in, finance, economics, and cryptocurrency. This is just a burgeoning field. I mean, it's every day it's getting more and more exciting. No doubt the price and speculation is affecting that. We'll get to that. But basically, I wanted to cover cryptocurrencies. So Crypto Voices on my website, you're going to find a lot of long scale charts about a variety of currencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dash, Litecoin. I'm going to be adding more in the future, but this is more than you would just see on, if you go to a coin market cap or a coin cap and see the price and the market cap. You're going to see a lot more detailed information, detailed charts on the site.
Yeah. And by the way, if I interrupt you here, one of the things I really value about your crypto voices, and by the way, those of you watching this, that's something you really want to get into, is you go back and you curate. You find really good articles by people who are really, really smart and read them to us. And you'll all talk about, well, Bitcoin at the time of this writing was at da-da-da-da, usually a lower price than it is today. But we find that out, and you find some trends that tend to work really well. When someone's looking at cryptocurrency, what do you see kind of the long-term trends of where we go? What do we need to know as entrepreneurs about cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so that's the other piece. Just to finish on crypto voices is there's definitely some long scale charts up there and trends from different blockchains and cryptocurrencies. But as well, the creative part that I mentioned is I am narrating, I guess, in an audible.com like fashion, sort of like an audiobook, just narrating opinion pieces, editorials, articles from people that are respected in the community, been around the community for a long time. So people can get a sense of that. To answer your question, cryptocurrency, it's got a lot of interesting trends going on right now. Bitcoin, Ethereum are probably the two of the biggest names that you will hear. But I think the most interesting trend right now in cryptocurrency is there is a major, I don't want to say speculative bubble because that puts a bad connotation, but there is a lot of speculation going on the future use of these digital assets around the world in business, in personal finance, in just peer-to-peer transacting. And even in government, there is just a lot of very, very high interest that just grows every day. And the interesting thing, again, getting back to the economic theory a little bit, is that all starts from speculation. I mean, no one, Bitcoin has been around now for a little bit over 8 years, about 8.5 years now. And, from the beginning, it was just hackers and enthusiasts that were trading this. Now, mining, which is basically the act of bringing new Bitcoins into existence, you have to spend computing power to do that. You have to spend electricity to do that. That's a legitimate business. I mean, people can make money doing that. So there's a circular economy floating around Bitcoin mining and Ethereum mining and mining Litecoin and certain other cryptocurrencies. But on the other side, there is speculative demand just to hold these assets because it's an asset that we've never seen before. It's sort of like, it's like a gold rush. It's like an oil, like the first oil gusher. Yeah. Like this is a market that is truly green, truly young, and not a lot of people understand how it works. Even people that have been around for a long time, a lot of technophiles, cypherpunks, they call them, people have been around cryptography for a long time. There's so many interesting pieces that play together, but really what you're seeing for the first time is the internet of value. You're seeing value able to be transmitted across the globe instantaneously at very, very low cost, just like, putting up a web page or sending an email.
Exactly. Matter of fact, one of the things I've seen with that, it's real practical, and you and I both agree, it's very important that it's not just speculation. And if that's all we have, there's no real value. But example, I had a client I worked with a while back, and they wanted to pay me in Bitcoin. I thought, well, okay, I hadn't done that before, but sure, I did it. Well, I'm certainly glad they did, because this was a few months ago. So guess what happened? They paid me this much, and now it's worth that much. Notice my hands are off the screen there. And I think, okay, that's good. That becomes practical, and it was cheaper for both of us and faster for both of us because we just held it up here on the computer. We were on Zoom, and I held up my smartphone. They held up theirs, and whoosh, as you know, I think that's the technical term, whoosh, transferred over there. So to me, is that the kind of practical value, that would just be one of the things that you see happening?
Yeah, I mean, via the QR codes there, it's, again, all these pieces come together, even mobile technology. I mean, it's arguable that Bitcoin really didn't gain adoption before now because mobile phones and smartphones really weren't around until the last, 8-9 years. and things like that. Like just being able to transfer value on your phone, being able to transfer value online. It's just, obviously we're still as humanity, we're young in this. I mean, you know, the web started in 1995 and everything, but like this being able to transfer value on the web and hold value is a really exciting and new thing. Yeah, and I want to get to your point again about speculation, because again, back to the economics of it, it is true that speculation sort of starts it, but yes, we have to get to a point where there is some sort of a business model that can surround this. And right now, I think that's still an open question. Definitely. I tell everybody still the killer app of Bitcoin, of blockchain, of even Ethereum is the token that you can transfer very efficiently and easy. It's basically money. Money is still the killer
it's
app.
money. It comes back to money, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It makes the world go round, gives us the ability to deal with people, because I can say, hey, you're over there in the Baltics. I'm here in Orlando, Florida. Would you do X for me? And you say, sure, Terry, I can do that. And it'll run you X number of US dollars or euros, or what, but we're going to be paid in Bitcoin. And we agree to that. We go, great. We hold up our phones. It's transferred. You've got your money and you've given me a service. That to me is the killer app. I have to agree with you.
It is. And I think it's going to be that way for a while. There's a lot of interesting ideas out there. We can get to some of them, but you almost can't say it enough. You know, I've been following Bitcoin since 2011, which I think was pretty early days. That was 2 years after it launched. I was not buying Bitcoins at that time. It took me, I usually like to take a flyer and speculate myself, but you know, it was sub $10 when I first started reading about Bitcoin. And then,
oh my goodness. Don't you wish, Matthew, we could get in our time machine, go back and buy about 100 bazillion Bitcoins at $10.
Yeah, I heard about it early 2000. I mean, it's a story I tell all the time. I still have the article saved. It was one of the first things that pushed me away is I heard about it maybe March 2011. Reading, following, interesting. Still couldn't exactly figure out how to work the client, how to, you know, download it, actually get Bitcoins. And I was in Latvia, and you know, if I'm in the Baltics, if I'm in maybe San Francisco, it's one thing, but if you're in Eastern Europe, it's also a thing. So it was just hard to get it. But 3 or 4 months later, in June of 2011, was the first major hack at the only Bitcoin exchange at the time. It was called MTGOX. It was in Japan. It's a relatively famous event. They've had a few blowups, including one which shut them down a couple of years later. But the first blow up, it was about $30. So I heard about it maybe 6, 7. It was $30 in June of 2011. And then in like a couple minutes, it went to under $1. I still have the article. I still have the price chart. And that was a very scary thing for me, just to sort of like wonder why I would take the risk on this asset. It was so volatile. It was so new. It was so strange.
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, let me interrupt you right there for a moment, because then that was a big fear. We saw $30 and then suddenly it drops to $1. Many people lost thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars or so with that. But let's say, okay, hold it. We're going to pause there, step back. And there was a reason why, and a lesson for us today about putting your money on an exchange versus putting it into what's called a hard wallet, you know, a hardware wallet. Tell us a little about the principle of that based on that historical perspective. I think you would have some good insights on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's recommended for anyone in Bitcoin to always store your coins, your Bitcoin or your Ether, or if you're trading like a Litecoin or an altcoin, store the coins on what they say a cold wallet or a hardware wallet. And that is
what's a cold wallet? What's a hardware wallet for someone who doesn't?
Yeah, cold storage is the general sort of term of basically so there's 2 keys in cryptocurrency. There's a public key, public address, which basically it's kind of like a bank account. You can send that money to it. And then there's a private key. And that's basically the key that unlocks and cryptographically proves that you are the owner of that public address. And that private key is basically the money. If you lose the private key, if you send it over email and it's hacked and, you know, someone sees that private key, they now can control your coins and send them to their wallet, which is definitely going to be more secure. So
would it be correct to think of that in terms of cash? If I gave you, say, $3,000 in cash, here it is, you've got it. You'd want to take care of that and put it in some very secret and secure place. Would our keys be like that as well?
Absolutely. The private key is essentially cash, And all it does is it unlocks the position on the ledger for those coins. You know, obviously we call it Bitcoin. It's not a coin per se. It's a legacy word, but the digits and the arrangement on the ledger, the public ledger worldwide, which is decentralized all across the world, can only be unlocked with that private key. So it's a very basic lesson that a lot of people learned the hard way with the MTGOX. There were multiple failures, actually, and some other exchanges have suffered similar fates, although they've gotten around it in some ways, but we're not going to talk about that now. But basically, if you just sort of buy coins on an exchange, like you know, log in, make an account, maybe show them a picture of your passport, and you're trading coins on an exchange and you're logging in, logging out, you don't actually own Bitcoin. You own a custodial right to Bitcoin. But when those coins are on the exchange owns the coins. Essentially, you have the right to get them, but you need to make, like, and I do this as well. Like, if I'm buying coins on an exchange, I never leave them on the exchange. I don't margin trade either. Some people margin trade. You need to have the coins on the exchange to margin trade. But if I'm buying coins, I immediately, I would send the exchange money from my bank account, make the trade, and then immediately I would take the coins off of the exchange onto my hardware wallet or my cold storage.
That's important. Those of you that are watching this, what Matthew just said is extraordinarily important. Matter of fact, Matthew, you and I were talking about this before we started the recording. One of the things I'm looking at right now, I've got some Bitcoin. I want to put that into my company account on the bank that I have here in the United States. What I'll do is I'm going to put that through an exchange that's there. It'll be there temporarily, just enough time to transfer it over to the bank. And so then when it goes over the bank, it's done, and I keep a very, very small amount in that place, that exchange, probably less than $50. So it's just something there that I can get it if I need it quickly. Is that a good strategy to use? Would you recommend that, or an alteration of that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. And obviously, everybody's going to have different needs, and everybody's going to have different use cases for the currency. This is continually going to adapt, though, because I think we were talking about this as well in the pre-show. You know, this is why it's still the killer app is only money. Like, if you tell the average person on the street, you know, okay, we have Bitcoin, it's this digital technology, it's a digital currency, it's not real. I mean, you can transfer value just like that, but it's not gold, it's not even paper cash. It's just, it exists out there in the ether, so to speak. It exists on this network. The only thing you got to make sure of is back up your private keys. And if you say the word back up your private keys, you know, at the moment today, still 8.5 years on after Bitcoin's beginning, its genesis, everyone, 99% of the people their eyes would roll back if you say back up your private keys. So it's a very new, difficult topic. And obviously it's based on cryptography. It's based on a few other interesting pieces of technology, but you know, it's like cryptographic emails. They've been around since the 90s. Probably since the 90s. And there are these communities that really want to promote cryptography and email, but the masses, it just hasn't caught on. And that's why we get spam in email. There's just not enough value or reason with email to sort of protect it because it's completely free. And so we get spam, we get people that don't really care about their accounts. They don't care about the security of their accounts. But this is different because now we have essentially a token that can be sent cryptographically. And the point there is you have keys like cash that you have to back up and save and store separately. But once you do that, you essentially can transfer value to anyone over the world at extremely low cost. And that's really the main point still. Yeah.
One of the things I thought, I mean, help me on this, is I'm learning as I go, working with this and having fun doing it. It's kind of think of it like you've got a file on your computer. Let's say you got a Word document and it's really important. You've got some very vital information on there, and you do not want to leave that on your computer. For whatever reason, you got to get it off your computer. I would not just make a copy or a backup, essentially having two places. If it's real private, I might take it and put it onto a USB drive. So now I take that Word document, copy it over to there, and then erase it from the computer. It now exists only on that hard drive, and I guard that USB that I have very carefully. Would that be a good analogy, metaphor for it?
Yeah, yeah. As far as protecting your private keys, I think it's a very similar concept. Obviously, with Bitcoin, you can't copy the coins, copy a file, and have, if you have one Bitcoin, you can't copy it. Now you have two Bitcoins. That's a different concept.
Right. That's where the knowledge would break down. But we're
Yeah,
essentially, you're actually, I guess, moving it might be a better way to do it. I'm not copying it, but I'm moving it over to the USB drive, to use that
yeah.
analogy.
100% agree, and that gets into, I think, the cold storage description, and I can explain that briefly. So I think you set it up well. You need to make sure that this private key is protected. And even with your analogy with the USB stick, if you put it on a USB stick and say leave it in a safe or something, that as well isn't completely safe, because if you have malware or something that can basically read what's going on in your computer and send it to a hacker, the moment that you would plug that USB stick into the computer is actually a danger. And again, this came over, like, for the average person like me, I'm not a cryptographer, I'm not a coder, but over many years, people started to learn that this is really dangerous, and people are looking for it. There's a file where the keys are stored. It's usually called a wallet.dat file. And so that's basically a red flag for anybody. If they see the wallet.dat file, if a hacker sees that on their computer and it's not encrypted itself, they can just steal that file and then they have your coins. So that's, you gotta have these keys encrypted first of all, and then stored or backed up in a safe place. And that means that there are devices which are similar to a USB, as you said, but they don't touch the internet. We don't have to get into the technicals of it, but basically you can plug it in, they can sign the transaction, do everything it needs to do cryptographically offline, but then you can still spend your keys online after validating it with a PIN code. So it's still technical. I mean, I know what I just said there. If it's the first time you heard it, it could be difficult to understand. But basically, we're talking about cash in a vault. I mean, that's it. We're going back from the private keys represent your Bitcoin. So wherever you have those private keys, it's just like cash in a vault. You could put the private key in a safe deposit box, but then you got to think about the viability of that bank. And if that bank can be completely trusted and would never open that safe deposit box. You can put the private keys in a safe at home, but then you got to think about, what's your neighborhood like, and things like that. You can put the private keys at a safe somewhere else, and think about the security of where the safe is there. So it's a very interesting thing. It's not. I will definitely submit to anyone that's the difficult challenge still to the masses. Of the masses adopting. The price rise is one thing, people are speculating, but most of the people, I can pretty much guarantee you, when they say they're owning Bitcoin or they're dabbling in Bitcoin, they're probably doing it like we were talking about before. They set up an account on an exchange, they bought some Bitcoin on an exchange, but they're just leaving the Bitcoin on the exchange like a bank, like a bank account, thinking that it's there and it's theirs.
And it's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. Basically,
just like time. And we're seeing that in countries around the world. I present case number example A, Cyprus. People had their money in the Cyprus account, and then suddenly the next morning, boom, it's gone. The government decided to take it from. By the way, Argentina has done that. Poland has done that. Countries around the world, and the United States did something similar back in the 1930s when they decided they're going to take your gold.
They did.
You're no longer allowed to carry gold. So if you think it can't happen wherever you might be, it probably could. So
they did, and those are great examples, Terry.
There's a lot going on with all this. One of the things I wanted to find out for those that are watching this and listening, they're getting started, how do we learn about this? Where do you go to learn about the new concepts? What would you recommend for someone to come up to speed on this and start understanding it?
Yeah, the Coin Center is a good advocacy agency for Bitcoin and a lot of knowledge. CoinCenter.org. I think they have I don't want to misspeak, I think they have a site, We Use Coins.
It could be. Matter of fact, when we do this, it's right here. I'm going to share screen. What do you say we do that? I'm going to share my screen. Sure. And then I've got a little article on there right now. What I want to do is come over here, and I'm going to go to coincenter.org.
Yep.
So I'm typing it in right now, and we'll find out if this works. And there we are. So you can see that on your screen?
Yep. Yeah, so that's good.
Talk to us a little bit about it. I hadn't seen this before. Thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah, that's a very, there's some well-respected economists that work there. Jerry Brito right there, who you see at one of those articles.
Yeah, right here.
Peter Van Valkenburg as well, and they do a lot of great work. They have legal backgrounds as well. They're advocating. They're talking to congressmen. This is a very U.S. centric site, I would say, and I'm American, you're American, so that it's very good, I think, for Americans to look at this. They explore all sorts of different topics on a high level, on a detailed level, on a practical level, and I think they do really great work. And they're really advocating for cryptocurrency.
Excellent. Thank you. So that's
I don't
called
want to speak. There's another one, We Use Coins. I haven't been in a while, and that may be completely different.
WeUseCoins.com or
Try.com. Try.com.
We'll try.com. Okay, we'll try it anyway. And if this works, great. See, we like to make this up as we go. There we are. That seems to work. We Use Coins. Talk to me about that.
Well, I should, as I said, I thought that this was connected with Coin Center. It may not be, but it's just another one where, again, you see like store Bitcoins, Bitcoin for individuals, Bitcoin exchanges. You can go down, go down to the a little bit farther. Are those people from the team there? Oh no, those are not people from the team.
Oh, looks like somebody else here.
But those are
some of these guys are recognized
very important people. Very important people making nice quotes about Bitcoin. But I can't recall, to be honest, if We Use Coins is connected with Coin Center.
That's okay.
But it's they're a good one as well.
Okay, so that's We Use Coins, and ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing it right here as we look at it. Matthew, thank you very much. This is very useful.
Yeah, I think both of those are very practical sites, and as well another one, Bitcoin.com. Roger Ver, who is
our mutual friend Rogers.
Yeah, Bitcoin evangelist.
Bitcoin.com, pretty easy to remember, and we can bounce over there and see it. One of the things I like about Bitcoin.com myself is it's got real good content on there. And we can also see, like, for instance, right now, at this very moment, this instant, as we are recording this, Bitcoin is at $2726.45, $2,726.45 in the US dollars right now. And so we can see that there, but I particularly like their news. We can click over here on the news, and that gives us the ability to read some really good articles. Do you go over here and read these very much?
I do. I do. I have, to be honest, I've been reading less of these types of articles as of late and looking at a lot of more technical things from my site. But this is just, we all have our own bandwidth that we can use every day. And so I haven't been going to some of just the more basic sites or even news sites lately. And I get some good Crypto Compare is another one. I get a daily news update from them. They have a very good daily news update. I think they're based in
I've enjoyed that. Brian Sovereign told me about that on his podcast. I remember listening to it. And that's a real good one.
Yeah, that's a great one just for everyday news. They do very well. But I think... I think as well, Twitter, if you want to start following some of these people, Twitter gives good article updates from individuals in the space that have been around, and Twitter is actually a good news source as well. So it's that. There's definitely a lot of information. It's interesting. I haven't really been publicly speaking about Bitcoin or writing about Bitcoin or doing things like my podcast before, even before this year started. I was giving speeches and talks locally before I launched Crypto Voices in January of this year. But it is, and for me as well, that's actually one of the points I wanted to make at the beginning is when I was looking at it 2011 and it was a very cheap price and it was very hard to figure out how to buy and there was a lot of volatility. For me personally, like I'm in finance and investment. I missed that. Like that was my fault. There's other people that I think have had the same experience. But for me, even being having a finance background, it's taken me from 2011 till, through 2016, basically to feel, let's say, comfortable enough to start my own site on the topic, to start talking about more things like crypto economics. And
I am delighted to hear you say that, Matthew. If you, in your position with your formal degree in finance and the study and the years and years you put into it, helping people with it, it took you a while. I feel much better now. We mere mortals can all together band together and go, all right, a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't Definitely wouldn't compare myself like that to someone like, Roger Ver or Eric Voorhees, or these guys that were buying at that same time that I was looking at it. But yeah, there are so many people out there with similar stories, and there's a range of it, between me and them. There's a range of people that have gotten on, in 2012, 2013, or after the slide in 2014, 2015. And we're just going to keep continuing on. The narrative has definitely switched, though, I can say, in the last year or two, from this may work, it may not work, it may be beneficial for government and banks, it may not be beneficial for government and banks, being very skeptical, very doubtful. The narrative has switched in the last, I'd say, year, 2 years, especially with the progress that Ethereum has made. Because Ethereum is offering competition to Bitcoin in a different way. And I like them both. I mean, there are some people that are only about Bitcoin, or some people that maybe are only about Ethereum. I like them both. I think competition is a good thing. We're going to see development across many different protocol designs. But
yeah, and I think, by the way, about in Ethereum, what you were talking about, and you and I were talking about this before we started recording, that just this last, I think the last week or two, that we saw the founder of Ethereum, who is from Russia originally, then moved to Canada, he was talking to Vladimir Putin specifically about Ethereum. What do you think of that?
It's a scary thought at first glance. I live in the former Soviet Union. I live in Eastern Europe, and Vladimir Putin is a scary guy. He definitely is a modern day dictator. He is it depends on how you want to say it, but I would not defend him in any circumstances. He likes to stir the pot in the West. He likes to make big headlines and act like he's protecting his people, but he has definitely stolen a lot from his people, just like a lot of the oligarchs have in the 90s. They've stolen assets that have been privatized after the end of the Soviet Union. So it always happens with big changes in government. Big changes in government, there's going to be a lot of big changes in those big ticket items. And that's happened with Russia. It happened with the oligarchs in the 90s and Putin in the last 15 years. And if anyone thinks Putin is, I know we're getting a little bit aside from crypto, but if anyone thinks Putin is actually going to democratically step down or something,
I wouldn't bet a lot of Bitcoin on that happening. Yeah, I think we're going to look at something else there. But also at the same time, we see the what's happening out there, and the entrepreneurs look out and they go, okay, this is happening, this is good, this bad thing is happening, or gee, I wish I had this happening. There's a lot of opportunities as we kind of wind down here and put things to rest, because I could talk with you for hours on this, or days. And you want to do more. What do you see as, I'm going to have you reach under the desk there and pull out your crystal ball and rub it really well. And what you're seeing, like really long term, like 12 months, and what's going on. Things are changing so fast. Opportunities that you think somebody might want to look into this, or they might want to look into that, related to crypto and entrepreneurial activities. What do you see are some of the best opportunities there?
Yeah. One caveat, I would reiterate, I still think today, and I think in 12 months, the main killer app still of cryptocurrency or crypto assets is still going to be money. It's going to be the transfer of value cryptographically over the internet. It's going to become easier for the average person to use. And there'll be sort of second layers that will be using it more, where people might not even know that they're using Bitcoin, but that will come. I think for the average, say, individual on a retail level, someone to get involved, first of all, it's not investment advice. And I hate saying that because I think it's a sort of very US-centric, legal-based language to say this is not investment advice. I don't think anyone should have to say that. Everybody should make their own decisions about what they can and can't do, or what the risk they can take. But I would just, again, I'd reiterate, this is still bleeding edge technology. It's every day we're learning in Bitcoin. Every day we're learning in Ethereum. It's new. It's just the frontier type stuff. So if you think that you would like to get exposure to that, I would say very simply, go buy Bitcoin, go buy some Ether, maybe buy some Zcash or Dash. Dash is another project that I like. They have some interesting governance that they're trying to solve as well. But really, just go out and buy some Bitcoin. That's what I would say is the easiest way. Because once you buy it, you'll start to pay more attention to it. You'll start to read more news about it. You'll start to follow the price.
And
you
what's the best way for them to do that? If somebody says, okay, how do I buy Bitcoin? What would you recommend?
Well, if you're in the U.S., I'm not in the U.S. Anymore, but I think in the U.S. probably Coinbase is the easiest way to do it. Poloniex is another big exchange.
Coinbase.com.
That's right. I think Coinbase is. I don't actually have an account at Coinbase, so I can't. And I can also say we talked a little about this at the beginning as well. The U.S. is probably the most ripe nation for disruption by cryptocurrency. I mean, the banking system in the U.S. has legacy. Like, in Eastern Europe, when I was going there, even 10 years ago, full time living there, the talk of checks or checks clearing, this is 10 years ago, that was absurd. The ECB actually just had a meeting in our neighbor country in Estonia today, and trying to figure out all the things with quantitative easing and everything else. But the banking system in Eastern Europe in particular was so basically vacant and ripe for disruption, even in the 90s, that they basically just started from the ground up. Like, there's no reason to have checks over here. Everything is already the SEPA payment system, it's called, that you can basically just send money directly from bank account to bank account. So actually the Eastern European banking system, I would say, is in less need of disruption than the US banking system. But that's, again, both of those things, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, the United States, Canada, this is still the developed world compared to, I think, where the real money is going to be made in cryptocurrency. And I think that's going to come from the developing world, Africa,
developing world.
Asia,
Start looking at that.
India, South America. Yeah, I mean, I just think, again, I'm more of a macro guy, like looking at big picture things, talking about supply and demand and the money supply and how these things can affect it. But I still think the killer app is money. I think if you're an enthusiast or someone who wants to become an enthusiast, learn more, the best thing to do is buy Bitcoin. Ethereum, which again is a sort of a, I don't want to say a rival blockchain, but they're trying to do different things. They're trying to run applications on their blockchain. There are a couple projects on Ethereum which I think are interesting. The two that are most interesting to me are called Augur and Gnosis. They are,
and please spell those for us.
AUGUR is Augur, and Gnosis is GNOSIS. Both of those are run by teams, decentrally. They're just developers around the world. They have core teams that run all of these projects, but still, anyone can contribute. You can see the code. It's open source. And what they're trying to do is basically create a prediction market for the world. It's a very interesting thing. We don't have to get all into it, but basically the idea is that you can bet, you can put money at stake on anything. And the idea is the wisdom of the crowd will sort of move the market slowly as the date of sort of the execution date of the market comes close. Like, say, even use a simple example, like it's going to rain on next Tuesday. As the date gets closer, more and more people will look at that market. They can be meteorologists or not. They'll just look at the market and they will start to see like a ticker, like to see where people are placing money and how that will go. And this is where it does come down to the decentralized application of blockchain, the transfer of value easily, fractionally, at very, very small. Even if you spend 0.0001 cents in Bitcoin on this market, you're going to move the needle a little bit. And that is something that just can't be done in our current systems. Like, no Vegas casino can do this even. So the prediction markets it's a theoretical thing even, but it's starting, and I have no doubt that it's going to come. There'll probably be some hiccups, probably be, it's not going to be cracked up to what everybody thinks it's going to be at the beginning. It's going to take some time. We're talking, I think 5 years before more mass adoption comes in this. But keep an eye on both of those projects, because this is blue sky stuff. This is gold rush stuff. This is just things that we haven't had the technical capabilities to try them. But if we can get it right, if they can get it right, the developers, I think it's just going to move humanity in a better direction.
Yep, I have to agree with you. We're seeing it really start to change, and it's becoming very practical right now. And you do that. I want to thank you again for what you've done with Crypto Voices. You've really given me a lot of good knowledge and information, as you are the curator. You go back and you go through probably hundreds of articles, go, no, 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 no. Oh, here's a good one. And you'll take those out. So you really help us to get what we want. And now that you've opened it up to the interviews, I think you and I talked about that a while back. I was recommending having interviews and talking with people there, practical information. Those of you that are watching this, here's a way for you to start learning. If you're saying, okay, I like this, it sounds good, I need to learn more, follow these tips. Go back over this video that we have. One exposure to new material seldom creates the environment to retain it long term. So you want to review. I would recommend go back over this. Write down what we saw, look at the websites that we talked about, and get in touch with Matthew. He is a person you want to follow. You want to get to know, subscribe to his podcast. Matthew, someone says, okay, I'm going to do it. I want to get in touch with this guy. He's smart. How do they get in touch with you? How do they connect with Crypto Voices, et cetera?
Yeah, so thanks again, Terry, for the kind words. You can reach me at matthew@cryptovoices.com, matthew@cryptovoices.com. And please just get on to cryptovoices.com. There's a lot, like I said, it's not just the podcast is a part of it, but there's a lot of charts up there which show sort of detailed economic like events on these different blockchains, costs per transaction and other things. And the podcast as well, cryptovoices.com/episodes, or you can follow us on SoundCloud, download it on, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher. Crypto Voices is the name. And I post as well, crypto_voices is my Twitter handle. I post every time we have an episode, I tweet about it.
Yep, very good. Well, good material. And Matthew, really good to have you with us today. I know it's getting to evening time for you over there in the Baltics, and hope you have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much for joining us today, Matthew.
Yeah, Terry, enjoy your day. You have more of it left than I do. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you having me on.
You bet. And for those of you that are joining us, seriously, this is a really good way to get started. The whole crypto world is growing by leaps and bounds. There's a lot of opportunities. Matthew is a person that is my friend. I value his information. It's really rich content. I listen to that, and often what I have to do is I have to stop it, run over and grab a pen and paper and write it down. He gives a website or he says something, I go, oh, that's good, or it'll trigger an idea in my mind. Oh, that reminds me I need to do this. So I would make that a staple in your listening diet. To delicious podcasts are something you want to consume a lot. His is a delicious podcast. So I look forward to hearing from you. Drop us a note. Please comment, and please share this with others. Take this and share it with your community, because people need to know this. This kind of information can be really helpful. Get them signed up to Crypto Voices as well, and we'll all learn a lot more, and we'll enjoy the whole world. I'm Terry Brock with terrybrock.com and with Brock on Blockchain.com, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for being here.